Hi, I'm Dr. Michelle with Treble Health, and today I'm going to be discussing lyric hearing aids and whether or not they're a good option for individuals who have tinnitus. So, if you're not familiar with lyric hearing aids, they're essentially a disposable hearing aid that a lot of people equate to like a disposable contact lens. So, you have these hearing aids that are put into your ear and they last for several months. After a few months, the batteries die down and they have to get removed and replaced. So the Lyric actually has been around for a number of years. So even if you haven't heard of it, it has been around and on the market, and it's been a very successful product for numerous patients. I myself used to fit a ton of them when I used to work at NYU, and they were often the choice hearing aids for individuals who were really concerned with having invisibility. So they were really looking for the most cosmetically appealing option, but because of their lifestyle or maybe their career, they didn't want anyone else to know that they had a hearing loss. And so the Lyric really fit the bill for that because, again, it's a hearing aid that goes completely inside of the ear canal. So if I, for example, had one and I were to turn my head, you really wouldn't be able to see it if it was properly inserted inside of my ear canal. And on top of that, it's also very comfortable. So for individuals who have them and are good candidates for them, they shouldn't actually feel them inside of their ears. So essentially, the first time the Lyric is put into your ear, of course, you're going to feel it and notice it. But after a few minutes, a few hours, a day, you really should forget about it altogether and not even feel it or not even remember that it's in your ear. So comfort is one of the prime features of the Lyric hearing aid. And over the years, they've developed 4 different versions of it. So right now we're at the 4th version of the Lyric. And with each new version, they come out with slightly different features that help address things like cerumen blockage, fit and comfort, durability. They have a fitting range from extra small ear canals all the way to extra large ear canals. So it truly fits most people's ears size-wise. And it's a really interesting process in terms of getting fit for the Lyric. So you do have to have measurements taken of your ear canal in terms of the ear canal length as well as the circumference. So the circumference of your ear canal to determine one, if those dimensions of your ear canal actually fit with one of the sizes of the Lyric. And then also it helps to determine the proper depth insertion. So one of the reasons that Lyric provides good sound quality is because it's placed fairly close to the ear canal. And so you have to take a measurement of the overall ear canal length to determine just how far away from the ear canal it should be placed. And once it's fit, then you can actually have usually a sample device, kind of like a dummy device that your audiologist puts into your ear to determine if the fit is good, the seal around the ear canal, if you feel like it's comfortable. And then after you're sized, then you can get fit with an actual device. Something that's really different between the Lyric and more traditional hearing aids is that you actually have to purchase a subscription. So with traditional hearing aids, you just usually purchase the devices up front, or maybe you might have financing for it, but you basically buy them outright. With Lyric hearing aids, since they're disposable, you have to purchase an annual subscription. And with that annual subscription comes essentially unlimited amount of Lyric replacements, because again, sometimes they'll just die on their own. Sometimes you'll have to get them replaced or removed. So for example, if you have to have an MRI, you're going to have the Lyric taken out of your ear because they're metallic components inside of the Lyric, and you can't have that in your ear when you're going to have an MRI. And so you might have it replaced more frequently if you require more frequent MRIs. And that's why there's also a long list of different candidacy requirements to determine whether or not an individual can really make good use of the Lyric and if it's a good fit for their overall physical and ear canal health. So for example, individuals who are on blood thinners like Coumadin are usually not great candidates and are contraindicated from using the Lyric because the skin inside of the ear canal is very thin and delicate, and the Lyric has to stay in place for several months. So it can start to break down some of the skin in the ear canal. And if someone's on a blood thinner, that means that they're going to bleed very easily, and it's going to be a lot harder for their blood to coagulate. And so it's very much contraindicated. So individuals who are on blood thinners, not usually a good choice. Individuals who have had radiation of their head or neck or ear, also not a good choice because it does also change the skin and the skin's integrity, and therefore having something on it can do more harm than good. Individuals who do require frequent MRIs, again, usually contraindicated because you're going to have the devices replaced more frequently. Although now with like the latest version of Lyric, an individual may be able to reinsert the Lyric on their own. Otherwise, they'll have to go back to their audiologist to have the Lyric replaced. And so that might not be convenient. In terms of also convenience, Lyric is probably not the best option for someone who lives really far away from their audiologist because the device may die out suddenly and you may need to have like an emergency replacement. And so if it takes you a long time to get to your audiologist, it can be really inconvenient for you and you don't want to be left without hearing. We also obviously have hearing loss requirements. The Lyric isn't a suitable hearing aid if individuals tend to have greater than a moderately severe to severe hearing loss. It would be best suited for individuals who have more of a moderately severe to profound hearing loss to try out a traditional hearing aid that has much more power and amplification to address the degree of their hearing loss. So Lyric is definitely more for individuals who have like mild to moderate, maybe some degree of moderately severe hearing loss in the lower frequencies, but hearing loss that's much greater is not usually fit with the Lyric because it's not going to provide sufficient gain and amplification and benefit. Since the Lyric hearing aid is inserted, so it's only about 4 millimeters away from your eardrum, it helps to use the natural ear canal acoustics of your ear canal to help enhance overall sound quality. And a lot of people feel that they have a better sound quality or more natural sound quality than some digital hearing aids. But again, that's really based off of like individual patient preference. So some individuals that I would fit with the Lyric right away, they were like, I hate this sound quality. It's not for me. And others right away were like, wow, it sounds great. I like how my voice sounds. It doesn't sound really boomy and loud. And I feel like everything else just sounds louder, but really comfortable for me. So that's why it's really important to get a trial period with it. I would always tell my patients who tried Lyric that you would know pretty much right away whether or not the Lyric is a good option for you. Whereas with traditional hearing aids, there is an acclimatization period where you may want to use them for a few days, a few weeks to really help adjust to the sound quality, the fit and the feel of the hearing aids. But with Lyric, you really know pretty much within a day if it's for you or if it's not really the amplification that you need, the fit that you need. And then you can start looking at, if it's not, looking at different styles of digital and more traditional hearing aids to help you hear. Another really nice feature of Lyric is that it's in your ear 24/7. So you're sleeping with it, you're showering with it. You can swim if you want to swim with them in your ears, but you would be recommended to have actual swim plugs made. So you'll use swim plugs when you're actually swimming. So that way you're not getting water logged into the devices. You're also able to adjust the volume of the Lyric on your own with a little like magnetic tool that you kind of insert or hold close to your ear. And it helps to adjust the Lyric in a few different ways. One, you can actually raise or lower the volume of the amplification. Two, you can actually turn off your Lyric entirely. And so if you were to turn it off, then your Lyric is almost acting like a noise plug. You can also put it into sleep mode where it tones down the level of amplification that it was providing for you, but leaves you with the same amount of hearing that you had before the Lyric was put in. So it's not acting like an earplug in that sleep mode. And you can also use the tool by unscrewing it. There's a little tool that you can use to help take the Lyric out of your ear. So it's a multifunction tool that allows you to have extra control of the device. And it's something that, again, some patients really utilize and others are more hands-off and don't really adjust the level of amplification of their hearing aids or don't turn it off or don't put it into sleep mode. So I had a lot of patients that absolutely never touched them. Then I did have a handful of patients that were frequently adjusting the volume based on what environments they found themselves in. Something that a lot of patients also really like about the Lyric is that since it's inserted deeply into your ear, you can still use your traditional earphones or AirPods, headphones and it's not getting affected by the use of hearing aids that might be a little bit more superficial or on top of your ear. So a lot of patients like that, and a lot of physicians too. So physicians that are using stethoscopes and need to be able to hear through their stethoscope, it's a way for them to be able to adjust for their hearing loss, but also still be able to function in their job modality. So in regards to whether or not Lyric could be a good option for someone who has tinnitus, I definitely fit several patients back in the day who had tinnitus with Lyric, and some of them noticed immediately that their tinnitus really subsided once they had the lyrics in their ear. Others didn't really notice much of a difference, but they were able to hear better, so that was an added benefit for them. Like, they weren't getting the lyric just because of tinnitus. So that's what I would really stress, that an individual who does not have hearing loss but has tinnitus would not be suited for getting the lyric. The lyric is truly for individuals who have some degree of hearing loss. And if you have tinnitus, it may help because one of the theories behind why individuals get tinnitus is that they have some degree of hearing loss and the brain is in some ways self-stimulating at the frequencies that it can no longer hear and is not receiving from its surrounding environments. So if you can hear better and get more input from your environment, then your brain might tone down that tinnitus because now it's getting it. And so that's the same principle with traditional hearing aids too. One of the prime differences between the Lyric and a traditional digital hearing aid is that the Lyric does not have any kind of built-in sound therapy or masked noises, whereas the majority of traditional hearing aids that one can get, they will have tinnitus features, so they will have built-in masking, or they'll have Bluetooth capabilities so that you can actually stream whatever sounds you find soothing for your tinnitus. The Lyric doesn't do that, but because the Lyric is put deeply inside of your ear, you could still use sound therapy through like your AirPods, earphones, and you wouldn't have any issue in terms of being able to at least still use sound therapy to some degree. There was a study that was completed in 2016 that wanted to look at whether or not Lyric hearing aids were as effective or more effective at managing tinnitus than traditional hearing aids. And the way that they evaluated that was through the use of the Tinnitus Functional Index, which is a questionnaire that helps evaluate how much tinnitus is impacting an individual in different aspects of their life. So the individuals who had tinnitus and were using the Lyric hearing aids, there were 82% of the individuals who had a reduction in their Tinnitus Functional Index scores of 13 points or greater. When they were looking at the people who had traditional hearing aids but didn't have any built-in sound therapy, they were just using amplification alone, 67% of individuals had a reduction of 13 points or greater on their Tinnitus Functional Index scores. And then for individuals who had hearing aids, traditional hearing aids with sound therapy or built-in sound generating noise, there was 79% of those individuals who experienced a 13-point or greater reduction in their tinnitus functional scores. The average point reduction on the Tinnitus Functional Index was 31 points for the Lyric and 32 points for hearing aids that had built-in sound therapy. But interestingly enough, for individuals who just had the hearing aids without any built-in sound therapy, only 21 points was like the average reduction in their TFI or Tinnitus Functional Index scores. So these results show that the Lyric really is pretty effective at treating tinnitus for individuals who also have coinciding hearing loss. Again, like I said previously, Lyric is not an option for individuals who have tinnitus and do not have hearing loss. But if you have hearing loss, it seems like a really good option that may help to improve your tinnitus just as much as traditional hearing aids would, and to some degree, just as effective as hearing aids with built-in sound therapy, as based off of this one study. The individuals who are also using Lyric had a greater reduction or improvement in their tinnitus within 1 month as compared to the individuals who are using traditional hearing aids. But both groups were actually found to have improvement to their sleep. So one of the benefits of Lyric is that you can use it even while you're sleeping, whereas traditional hearing aids you're not going to use while you're sleeping. But it seems from this study that definitely had a small sample size. They weren't finding a big difference between sleep improvement with the Lyric or with traditional hearing aids that an individual isn't actually wearing while they sleep. So overall, again, Lyric seems to be an effective option to help manage tinnitus if an individual is trying to address their hearing loss and choosing between Lyric hearing aid or a traditional hearing aid. But if you want to have a little bit more flexibility and control over using sound therapy and selecting a specific sound that helps to soothe you and helps distract you from your tinnitus, then a traditional hearing aid might be better because you won't have to have the additional use of the lyric inside of your ear and an earphone over it. Again, it's a matter of personal preference. I've seen patients be successful with both. So if you are on the fence, one of the best things to do is have a trial period with your audiologist to determine if the lyric seems to be the best option for treating your hearing loss and tinnitus, or if a more traditional hearing aid seems to be the best option for treating your tinnitus and your hearing loss. I will say that if cost is a factor for determining whether or not you're going to go with a traditional hearing aid or lyric over the course of a couple of years, you will probably be spending more money or just as much money on the lyric than a traditional hearing aid. So that's something to consider since it is on a subscription basis. And the pricing of a lyric subscription really does vary greatly, not just from practice to practice, but also where you're located geographically within the US. So if you have the lyric or if you've ever tried the lyric, please comment below with what your experience has been as to whether or not it helped you to hear better, if it helped your tinnitus. If you like this video, please hit the like button. If you don't already subscribe to our channel, please hit subscribe so you can get all the latest updates when we post new videos. Thank you so much.